see the picture of her. She's standing next to it. She's slightly taller than the barrel.
Oh, she's not sealed in it?
Oh,
that's different.
That's a little different. Yeah.
What do you-
I mean, it still sucks, but it's less scary.
It still
Her
sucks.
motives, as Roger said, were financial, but she never made much money from her adventure.
It still sucks. I agree. It sucks.
But she should have had T-shirts made. Oh, I don't know if T-shirts existed back
Her
then.
barrel was constructed of oak and iron and padded with a mattress.
You know, that's actually a good point, Roger. When did the T-shirt come into,
I think it was the 40s, 30s, right?
I don't know. I
Hmm.
mean, you know, you've got jeans, T-shirts.
Well, because she could have had a T-shirt that said, "I went over the falls with Annie."
Jeans are very clearly
1950s,
documented
right?
as arising in San Francisco around the gold rush, right?
Yeah,
Oh, wow, they're way older than I thought.
denim.
Yeah, the
that
Levi-
fabric was a particular type of dungaree, I guess.
The T-shirt evolved from undergarments used in the 19th century. First, the one-piece union suit underwear was cut into separate top and bottom garments, with the top long enough to tuck under the waistband of the bottoms. The earliest T-shirt dates back to sometime between the 1898 Spanish-American War and 1913, when the U.S. Navy began issuing them as undergarments. These were a crew-necked, short-sleeve white cotton undershirt to be worn under your uniform.
I went to the Spanish-American War, and all I got was this T-shirt.
Remember the T-shirt.
Yeah, eventually people are like, why is
What
this
are
a
you
layer on
wearing?
other things? It's fine.
Is there something wrong with your
at
union
this.
suit? It's in two pieces. And where's the trap door?
Everybody's a little punchy today.
Yeah. I was ranting off in our Slack about stuff.
Well, I mean, you weren't going crazy, but you know,
Oh,
did you
maybe
have
I felt
lunch,
angry
Tom?
and
You know,
I hadn't. No, you're absolutely right. I had not eaten at that point. And as soon as I did that, I'm like, I should eat something. And I did.
Hey,
there are certain times where like, you know, where you're kind of like, you feel, you know, at the end of your rope or, you know, whatever the term is. And you're like, you know, I just need, like, I either need to eat or I need a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I wasn't going to be able to take a nap.
like a little kid. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, I gotta like chill out and like refuel somehow.
I actually walked over to the local pizza joint and got a personal pizza. It was delicious.
I pull. All right.
I go to the kitchen for one of Roger's little helpers. It's a Klondike bar.
Which is a
Klondike bar.
Oh, okay.
Klondike bar.
I was like, I think the song is like about Valium or whatever.
Nah,
right? Or
it's
you know, or what's the thing that people used to take
Quaaludes?
Quaaludes?
Quaaludes, yeah.
I guess so, yeah, right? Yeah.
Quaaludes were the precursor of benzodiazepines, which Valium is a member of. I think that's the
right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys about ready?
Yes.
Wow.
Enough of this personal talk.
Enough of this drug talk.
1:30.
Let's get to some tech. All right.
Do it. All right. 10 seconds. Here we go. I'm going to hit this little button and we will be on our way in 3, 2, 1. Thanks to everyone who supports Daily Tech News Show directly. To find out more, head to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Salt Lake City, Utah, I'm Scott Johnson.
And from the outlands of the LA metro area, I'm the DTNS producer, Roger Chang.
Thank you, Roger Chang, for joining us today and everyone. Also, another thanks to Rich Stroffolino for keeping us up yesterday on the Microsoft announcement. There was one more announcement we didn't get to during the show yesterday. We're going to talk about that and a few of the repercussions of that and some other Microsoft announcements a little bit later on. But let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Facebook announced its investigations show that third-party services that use Facebook for login don't appear to be affected by those copied tokens. Facebook revealed Friday that attackers were able to access login tokens for up to 50 million Facebook accounts.
That is many accounts. Plex has added web shows like ASAP Science, Household Hacker, and Pet Collective, Epic Mealtime, and more. These are all cool shows. You can subscribe to the shows within the Plex app, and it will alert you when new episodes arrive, as well as track older shows and suggest shows that match your interests.
Intra is a security app that is meant to get around government internet censorship and traffic manipulation, and was tested by Alphabet's company Jigsaw with some Venezuelan activists, and has now been released worldwide for free in the Play Store. Intra creates an encrypted connection between your phone and DNS servers, making it harder for traffic to be intercepted by governments or any purveyor of malware, etc. All right, let's talk a little more about the end of a Wi-Fi era, Scott.
Oh man, this is means we got to start buttering up on new routers maybe soon. The Wi-Fi Alliance announced that the next version of Wi-Fi, heretofore known as 802.11ax, will now be called Wi-Fi 6. 802.11ac will now be called Wi-Fi 5, and 802.11n, which is my router, will be called Wi-Fi 4. The idea is to make it easier to tell which version of Wi-Fi is older.
I love this.
Yep.
And it's not, IEEE isn't changing anything. It's still going to be 802.11ax for the forthcoming protocol. If you're on that side of things, it's the Wi-Fi Alliance who's like, for public consumption, let's just make it simpler.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that everything under the hood isn't changing, I've gotten so used to this. It's like 802.11n. Okay, I know what that means, but it when you're like, well, how about we just call it Wi-Fi 4? And then there'll be Wi-Fi 5 and then Wi-Fi 6 and so on. It's like, oh yeah, why didn't we do this years ago?
There are some good reasons on the standard development side to have the naming protocol that it has. 802 dot means something. The 11 means something. The series of going from N to AC to AX tells you something, and it helps you keep track of things. It's a horrible way to tell everyone else which Wi-Fi has actually been published. We don't see 802.11ad or AE or AF or AG all the way up to AX marketed. So you don't need to have that level of specificity for the general public. So yeah, I like this too. And because it's the Wi-Fi Alliance working in cooperation with the IEEE, it means we also shouldn't get the kind of weirdness where somebody calls something 5G, even though it's not really 5G. It's Verizon's own version of 5G, et cetera. It should be, if it's 802.11ax, it's going to be called Wi-Fi 6. I guess the thing that might happen is somebody doesn't have to use that. They could put AX on the box instead of Wi-Fi 6, but that wouldn't help them any.
Google Assistant got an app redesign anyway, to give more visual additions in response to voice commands. For example, offering a slider to better control dimming your lights, that kind of stuff. This is good on a phone, but it's also on smart displays. JBL and Lenovo have already put out their own Google-powered smart displays, and Google is rumored to be prepping its own to be revealed along with the Pixel 3. The company is now offering developers the ability to take payments from users directly through the Assistant as well.
So yeah, what do we got next week is the big Google announcement on Tuesday, the 9th. So we might hear more about what this is going to be used for with that smart display announcement from Google then. But it's easy to poke fun at this, I think, to say like, oh, so your voice assistant isn't good enough. You have to have displays to go with it. But it makes sense. If it's like dim the lights, it'll dim the lights. Echo does the same thing, right? But it's nice to have that control there if you have it. If you have a display, why not show it like, oh, I want it a little dimmer or a little less dimmer, and you can fine tune it if you want. It's a good option.
Yeah, I also think the future of this stuff is displays across the board. Like right now, we're happy to have dots and minis and little devices everywhere that sort of have a limited scope of use. But I think there's a future not far off where the entire line has some kind of display. You're already seeing that diversification in the Echoes. And so why not have controls and systems in place to handle some of that? It's intuitive and smart. I don't see anything wrong with this. And I am now very anxious and excited to see whatever the heck that's going to look like from them. I want to see what their display version of the home is.
I do love it when I say, tell me the weather, and I can see it. Just, sunshine, clouds, some numbers, so much faster than waiting when I'm in the bathroom where I don't have a display for the Echo to go, this morning, it will be 74. This afternoon, there's a 20. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, get to the part that I really need to know. Yeah. Iron Ox is opening its first fully autonomous indoor production farm with plans to start selling produce from it soon. The farm is growing romaine, butterhead, kale, basil, cilantro, and chives. So they're all leafy greens of some sort, some herbs, some lettuce. A cloud system will monitor sensors and tell robots what actions to perform, including transferring seedlings to newer boxes, or perhaps saying, hey, it's time to harvest. Angus, a 1,000-pound robot that can lift and move the 800-pound hydroponic boxes the plants grow in, is the thing that goes around and moves this stuff. And it takes it to a robotic arm that can do things like, transfer the seedlings and all of that. Now, humans still do harvesting, seeding, and packaging. They haven't quite got it, even though they say it's fully autonomous. There's a couple of times humans have to come in. But the point is, humans don't have to be there all the time. The watering, the general maintenance is all done autonomously. And it can produce about 26,000 plants a year in about an acre of space. Founders Brandon Alexander and John Binney wanted to do something practical with robots rather than the novelty acts that you often see. A couple of side notes here. One is they've decided to switch from LEDs to sunlight, which means they won't be able to do it inside of cities. They'll need to be outside of cities where they can take advantage, because the cost of even running LEDs, as power efficient as they are, is still too much to make a profit. Also, they're targeting farmers with this to say, we want to get farmers to use this because we know there's a labor shortage in the agriculture industry. And that's well covered elsewhere, but it's hard to find enough manpower to do the things you need to do on a regular farm. And this solves that problem.
So I'm going to say a thing that you might hate. And I'm just curious if this has big application for the burgeoning growth of legal marijuana production.
Oh, of course, Scott. Just always to drugs with you.
Always straight to the drugs.
Why would anyone hate that?
What other crop is there, if you ask Scott Johnson?
It's a bumper crop. But if I was a guy running my own little hydroponics system and I'm kind of doing my own little shop or whatever, this seems like a really great way.
First of all, not all hydroponics. Hydroponics is not the same as marijuana.
It doesn't mean weed. It just means,
Although I'm sure, and we have a marijuana farmer in the audience who's written us before. I'm sure this could be used for that, as well as everything else.
Well, and think about it, an acre of space is, I know for a lot of people, it's like, wow, that's like a really big yard. But, I grew up on many, many acres of space. So 1 acre depending on the land that you have, it's super doable. And a lot of people have that and more. Think about being able to just have more of your own personal farm that you might be able to, you don't have to, you're not tilling the soil and doing all that stuff because, the robots are doing it for you. But that whole kind of living off the land for a lot of people is like, you could do it, but it takes a lot of work. But I wonder how much this could kind of, I don't know, move into a personal space where people are growing their own chives and basil and kale.
Sure. Well, and like solar cells, you do it for your own benefit, but then you could possibly make a little extra money off of what is above and beyond what you need. Yeah.
I'm being told, sorry, I'm getting something in the control room. The next model will be called the Snoop 4000 and will weigh only 420 pounds.
Oh my God.
So there you go.
Not true.
Not true. Dad jokes everywhere.
Amazon announced the Fire TV Stick 4K, ladies and gentlemen. That includes support for 4K Dolby Vision HDR, HDR10, HDR10 Plus, and Dolby Atmos surround sound. It also has a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core processor, the fastest processor on any Fire TV device. I guarantee it's faster than the original, which was painfully slow. The remote comes with an IR transmitter for control of sound bars, and cable boxes and the like. It's available for pre-order now. Ships October 31st, the very end of this month, for $50, which is pretty good.
Yeah, this is weird. This is weird to me that they right after a big Amazon announcement, Avalanche, which granted they announced way too many things in a short amount of time. So I guess I'm glad they didn't pour this on top of it. But a couple of beats later, they're like, oh, and by the way, our best 4K streamer is a stick. It's not even the actual Fire TV box that runs in 4K. I guess we can expect a Fire TV box to be upgraded, or even the Cube to be upgraded. Now, the other thing this doesn't have is voice control, but they're selling the Amazon Fire voice control remote that uses Amazon voice services separately now for $30, same time, October 31st. So you could get a Fire TV stick for $50, get the voice remote for $30, and have basically all of the functions of the Fire TV or Fire TV Cube in the stick.
Yeah. Also great sound options and stuff. Like this is a pretty, I mean, the specs are pretty modern. I'm just surprised.
It's a stacked stick.
Yeah. Little stick, $50 done. It's pretty good. Sarah, you want to add this to your streaming collection of devices?
Probably not. But I'm thinking, Tom, on what you mentioned. Why didn't we get this as part of the huge Amazon bundle of news? Maybe it's because the company thinks that this is, I don't know, would have gotten lost otherwise.
Yeah. It didn't fit direct because it's not voice activated, maybe because you have to buy the remote separately. Maybe that it didn't feel like it fit in the rest of those announcements, which were all about voice service control. So that could be part of it too. I don't know. But yeah,
I'm also kind of still in the camp where when anyone says 4K, I'm like, like I'm yet to be excited about anything that is 4K capable.
Here's the thing. You won't be until you get it. Once you get it, it's not going to make you that much more excited, but you'll always want the 4K because you'll start to see the difference.
It's the Retina display, right? Where you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to go back.
It's not like HD versus 480 where you're like, whoa, that looks really good. But once you actually, like when I bought a TV the last time, I bought a 4K TV because if I wanted to buy the best TV I could get for my money, it was a 4K TV. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll get a 4K TV. Why not? Now I'm like, oh, I need to have the 4K version of that because I can tell the difference on that TV. But again, the Retina display is the perfect example. You really don't notice it if you don't have it.
Yeah. Kobo launched the 8-inch Kobo Forma e-reader. It's IPX8 waterproof, up to 2 meters anyway, weighs 197 grams, is 15% lighter than the Kobo Aura 1, and it's kind of built for, I don't know, to withstand some stuff. The e-ink Mobius display can handle being dropped from more than 6 feet, as well as handle more bends and twists than previous model. The Forma also adds tactile page turn buttons on the right-hand side. Pre-orders begin October 16th, and the Kobo Forma comes to stores in Canada, the US, the UK, Italy, the Netherlands, France, Japan, and Spain October 23rd, followed by more countries in early 2019.
I'm going to go 4K on this one, which by the way, Nick with a C pointed out, it's really the HDR, not the 4K, but that was my shorthand for HDR was saying 4K. But that aside, why do we need e-readers? I know there's plenty of people who love them, but I actually do want to hear from you. Like, do either one of you use e-readers? Not tablets.
I prefer it over a tablet because it's easier on my eyes. So I also like the battery life. I like the durability in theory. I don't know how well my Kindle would take a nice fall, but this sort of stuff's interesting to me because every time a new one comes out, I think, maybe a better format for me. But I've had 2 cataract surgeries early in life, which has left me with a lot of glare potential. And e-readers in particular are really, really good for that. I can get through way more of a book than I can on a tablet or phone. I could make do on a phone, and I did on a recent trip last weekend, and it was fine. But I'm kind of that market, I think. But I have to think more people like them just for the form factor. And also, you just can't do anything else. Like, you're not going to get distracted by text and other stuff. You're just reading, and I kind of like that too. So I don't know. I kind of like them as a standalone device.
Yeah, I've never had a Kindle. I don't really use an iPad regularly anymore, but I've never totally enjoyed reading anything too long form on an iPad, and eye strain might be part of it. But I think, Scott, your point of just the fact that it's a computer that does all sorts of other things just distracts me to the point where I'm not sitting there for hours reading anything of substance. But yeah, the whole e-reader thing, especially if you're going out in the sun, and there's that whole aspect of it that if it does one thing really well, it's like, well, I also, pack books in my luggage sometimes. You only do one thing, right, with the book. So it's the same idea.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I had the original Kindle and I even kept upgrading it for a couple of generations, but then I found myself just not using it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of taste and habits, right?
Yeah.
Like,
did you feel like you went more? I know you listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. Do you feel like that usurped it? Is that your main reason?
No, I mean, audiobooks are about half of the books I read. I read a lot on the Kindle app. I think it was the fact that I could read on the Kindle app on bigger screens. Once the phones started to get bigger, it felt like, well, why do I need that? So the last device that I used mostly for reading was the Nexus 7, the tablet. I liked that size. But once the phones got to be around 6 inches, I was like, well, I don't really, it's almost the same size.
That's why my tablet use has waned, because my phone is not really big enough to read anything long form for me, but big enough so that I'm reaching for the tablet less and less.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say about this is I do think 280 or anywhere in that price range is too much for an e-reader. And I do look forward to the day where they're more utilitarian. Perhaps Amazon's closest to this, but 50, 60, $70 should be the max you ever want to spend for something like this. 280 is high. In my opinion.
Glad that Kobo is still in there giving Amazon some competition. Good for you. Folks, if you want to get all tech headlines in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right. To recap from yesterday, Microsoft announced the 28-inch touchscreen Surface Studio 2 that starts at $3,499, available November 15th. The Microsoft Surface Pro 6 starts at $899, also available October 16th. The Surface Laptop 2 starts at $999, available for pre-order now, shipping October 16th. And along with the new hardware, Microsoft announced Microsoft Surface All Access. That lets you buy any of these devices for a monthly fee over a 2-year period. And they throw in access to Office 365 for no additional charge, in-store training, and top-tier support. But the one thing that got announced after we were done recording yesterday that I think is most significant, maybe of all the announcements, is the Surface headphones. The over-the-air headphones have Cortana built in, have 13 levels of noise canceling that you adjust by rotating a ring on the left ear. Music pauses when you take them off, resumes when you put them back on. And a touch area on the ear cups can control playback. Uses Bluetooth 4.2, not 5.0. Charges over USB-C, and battery life is supposed to be around 15 hours. Coming to the US this autumn for $350. And it feels like this is the buzziest thing out there, because a couple of stories I read sort of made the argument that headphones are the differentiator for your ecosystem now. Phones are so commoditized that if you want to get me in your ecosystem, get me the voice assistant on the headphones, hence Pixel Buds with Google Assistant, AirPods with Siri, and now the Surface headphones with Cortana built in.
Yeah, it's an interesting market, right? We were talking in Slack earlier about this move back, and it's been going on for a while, so I don't want to make this sound like there's some sudden trend movement, but this move away from the 2000s were all about, let's get smaller, let's get tinier, let's get in your ears, let's go wireless. Like, those are still options out there. The AirPods are a pretty big success for Apple, and there are certainly other competing types of smaller wearable sound gear. But getting big old cans on your head is back in, and that's been pushed by many companies. We have the main headquarters and founding members of the folks who create Skull Candy are right here in the Valley, and they seem to be doing great. Just got a brand new facility there. It's beautiful and out of control. I assume they're making money hand over fist. And, Apple does well with Beats now that they've acquired them, and Beats was doing great before that. Like, this is clearly a market for a whole bunch of people. I feel like I'm entering this new phase of, I don't understand the hype, because all I want is something tiny I can keep in a bag and not be bulky and not have to wear around my neck all day. I just want to be able to stick them in and take them out. So I don't know where we all stand on that, but it's a market that eludes me a little bit. So I feel like I'm not the best person to talk about whether these new Microsoft ones are awesome or not.
Well, I think that we were talking earlier about.
Oh, weird. We got a big echo from you, Sarah.
Yes, I'm hearing that as well. Now I don't.
Now you don't.
Everything good?
Yep.
Okay, good. We were talking earlier, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's almost like wearing a hat, right? It's on your body. It's almost a piece of clothing, lots of different colors. So there is a bit of a style aspect of it that goes beyond me being like, oh, I've got a MacBook, right? Because I'm not kind of carrying that on my person all the time.
You don't wear the MacBook on your head. Yeah.
I don't wear the MacBook on my head, but or strap it to my body. But even a phone too. Like, usually it's in a purse or, that sort of thing. So it's like, you kind of choose what you want, and this is very front and center. So as much as I'd like to say that audio is very important to me, I want headphones that are comfortable. I want the audio to sound good. but I probably wouldn't wear my Sony headphones like out in public, even though they're very comfortable and the sound is really nice, because I don't know, it's just a little weird. So I'm kind of with you, Scott, where I do scratch my head a little bit at how much it seems to matter to folks. I do think that while there are audiophiles who know the difference, for the most part, people are probably choosing headphones because of status more than audio.
Yeah, I think there's a fashion thing at play. I was on a flight to and from Ohio over the weekend, went to Columbus, and that plane was just something I noticed, but that plane seemed to be filled with two specific demographics when it came to earwear. And it seemed like there were a lot of people over the age of 30 that are wearing little tight earbuds, wireless with Bluetooth, or, wired, but small. And it seemed like everybody, I mean, this is a very bad study, right? Like I didn't really do a head count, but
it's not a scientifically selected sample, but
right. But a lot of like kids were on this flight, and by kids I mean 16 to 25 in that range, and by and large they're wearing big cans on their head, Beats mostly is what I noticed, and a lot of them like sort of around their necks, using them on the TV screens on the backs of the seats, that sort of stuff. And I really do think there is a pushback toward having that stuff for some sort of status symbol. I think it's like glasses. There's a while there where you're like, those are goofy looking. And we probably thought that way about big, heavy cans on your head. And we've just switched back. Now people like big, goofy glasses, and they like big cans on their head. It also happens to be that a lot of times they have incredible sound in those things. You can get a more dynamic range, better noise canceling. Like the largeness has benefits. So
I love the 13 levels of noise canceling. Like 13? Okay. I mean,
lucky 13.
I will add, like, I'm actually one of those. I have the same set of headphones that Sarah has, and I've worn them on international flights because they actually do a pretty good job of blocking. Because I have modified foam pads on them, and they do a really good job of blocking out the noise on the plane.
I have a pair of those too. Yeah, in
the subway, like I have a giant telephone cord hanging off the left side, but it did a really good job. I also have the etymotics that go into the ear canal ones that block out all sorts of sound. Very uncomfortable things to wear, even though they sound great and they block out noise. With big funky cans over my ears, it's actually very simple just to pop them off, especially now because they're not corded. They don't pull on you when you're moving your head, and they're relatively light compared to ones even 15 years ago.
I think the difference is whether you care about sound quality and or the status of being seen versus practicality. Because the most practical headphones are little ones. AirPods, particularly, like stick them in your pocket, no problem, right? It's easy to pull them out, almost too easy, some people might say, because they could fall out and get lost. But they work fine for me. But they don't sound as good. They don't have the noise canceling, and they certainly aren't a fashion statement. I used to be embarrassed to wear mine around, although I see enough people with them these days that I feel like, okay, it's probably normalized.
Well, it's
still not a great look.
Why was it embarrassing?
Just because they're like, oh, wait, he's got those weird white things hanging out of his ear. What are those? They don't even have a cord.
I'm wondering if there's a certain like EDM DJ aesthetic to it where you look, hey, you know what? I might possibly be making your next dance track, right? For Bees or whatever next time you fly out for the summer.
No, that often will set a style like that. That makes sense.
If your favorite DJ, if the Dead Mouse is up there with one can on his ear and the other one kind of propped up. That's cool, man. That's super cool. So absolutely. I mean, I don't think any of us are real trend makers here, but I think that
Speak for yourself.
Well, sorry, Roger. I haven't given you enough credit lately. You are
taste makers, all all of us.
Yeah. I mean, dead mice, all of us.
Yeah.
I will say, just because we're on the subject, AirPods, I don't have a pair because Tom, you actually told me if the regular iPhone earbuds don't fit your ears that well, the wireless will not, and they don't. I just have weirdly shaped ears. However, so it's fine. I'm just not going to have them. It's, I'll live. But when I see people wearing them, it fills me with anxiety because I'm like, is it going to fall? every time I'm like, are you okay? You know, make sure you
just walk behind them with your hands out to catch them for them.
It's like somebody like not watching their kid enough where you're like, just
that can't be safe. Yeah.
Exactly.
I get that. I've got they fit me really well, so I happen to really quite like those, but there's also other issues with them. I just think it's funny that we all thought the future was let's get smaller. And I think a generation of consumers are maybe saying, not so fast. Maybe we like the retro look. Maybe we want it to, be a little bit more closing out the world and have it be obvious that I'm trying to sort of close you out. And I don't mean that in a negative way. So I think I'm 100% cool with it. Microsoft must see a market here, even though it feels really saturated to me. There are tons of competition in this space. But I guess we'll see how they do.
Real quickly before we move on, Microsoft not putting USB-C in the Surface Pro 6 or the Laptop 2 got a lot of attention, and I think The Verge nailed it. Nick Stat said, it's reasonable to assume Microsoft felt like it could not or didn't need to completely revamp the underlying manufacturing and industrial design process for the Pro 6 and Laptop 2 just to bring the ports up to speed. So my guess is he's right. They didn't want to redo the internals this time around. They'll probably redo it next time. Then we get USB-C.
Yeah. And by the way, excited about this or the Studio 2. And I will do a review, or not a review, but a kind of a preview of everything I can think of for an upcoming DTNS Arts Lab. So watch for that.
Also watch for other people in our subreddit because they've got great stories that you can vote on, and you can also submit your own. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Also on Facebook. Want to hang out on Facebook? Do so. Facebook.com/groups/Daily Tech News Show.
Let's check out the mailbag.
Okay, so we were talking about California net neutrality yesterday, and Eric had some really great feedback and said, I applaud California for passing this law. Eric says, I hope it stands. I've become convinced, though, that making it easier and more possible for local cities to provide internet service is ultimately the long-term answer. I'm fortunate enough to live in a small town in Ohio that does provide internet service. It's cheap, fast, reliable, and the very definition of a dumb pipe. My town has no motivation or reason to limit or block any particular website or type of traffic. Everyone else I talk to that doesn't live in my town pays more for a slower connection. First, I couldn't figure out why every town doesn't do this. Then I started hearing about the legal nonsense that has been done to block it. Normally, I have the viewpoint that the less government has their hands in things, the better. And I wouldn't want the national government or the state government to control my internet, but from my experience, having the local town provide internet service is a wonderful answer. My town isn't wealthy or big, so if they can do it, I'm sure any town could do it if the obstacles were taken out of the way.
Yeah, community internet, municipal internet is certainly one thing that, if allowed more places, which honestly it is in most places allowed, it's just been outlawed in a few states though, probably could provide, depending on the community, a reasonable solution to this for sure.
Thanks for the feedback, Eric. And also thanks to Scott Johnson for being on the show with us today. Scott, how's it hanging?
Well, real good. Lots happening. If you are somebody who really likes a daily format for a show, it's no wonder you're here for the Daily Tech News Show. And if you're like, man, I sure wish there was more daily content out there, might I point your squinties over to the Morning Stream. It's a show I do every morning, Monday through Thursday, and a bonus episode we do on Fridays. For patrons, but it's also for everybody, so you can get that 5th episode as well. That's over at frogpants.com/TMS, and I'll bet you like it. Tom's there on Wednesdays, lots of other friends of this show and the network as well. So do check it out, frogpants.com for details, and for all the shows I do, you can find it there.
Thanks to you for supporting this show directly on Patreon at patreon.com/DTNS. If that doesn't describe you, you can fix that very easily by going to patreon.com/DTNS. But for those who it is accurate, thank you so much for making it possible for us to continue to do the show. Please keep it coming, and we'll keep it coming right back.
We love your feedback as well. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Did I ever?
Yes, Diamond Club, we did enjoy this program.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of us.
You're the best.
You really are.
Simply the best.
Simply the best. Who sang that? Tina Turner?
Better
Tina
than
Turner song?
all the rest. Hold on.
Right?
Who does that?
I think it's Tina Turner.
Simply
Right?
the best.
You're
Yeah.
Tina Turner.
Yeah.
I think you're
Tina
right.
Turner.
I only know it from food commercials.
Actually, somebody was. Maybe it was the show. I never know who I'm talking to anymore. Somebody mentioned Private Dancer, another Tina Turner song. And I was explaining that I'm like, I didn't realize what the song was about when I was a little kid. So I was like, oh, you go to like, there's like a certain club where like you go and like slow dance, you know, for money because you're lonely.
Yeah. Because you're so good at dancing.
Well, like someone's good at it and like you want to pay them
Yeah.
to, you know.
Yeah, private dancer. Sure.
Well, and I think it probably
Man,
had
I'm
something to
tired of
do
these
with
amateur dancers. I need a professional private dancer.
well, because I think it was like
I think I thought that too. but-
this is like early MTV days, right? And I think the video is kind of that. It's not
a
like
little
pole
bit,
dance
yeah.
or
It
stuff.
just shows people dancing, right?
But and it's slow dancing, you know,
Not
where it's like
suggestive.
Well, it's
right.
like
And
it's
so I was
like,
like, what? Where are all these clubs where people are doing this?
well, it's like what's that Olivia Newton-John song? Let's Get Physical, and the video is just showing everyone aerobics.
Exercise.
It's
Yeah.
because she's going to exercise. Yeah. No, exactly. That's what the song is about, Roger.
I actually, until right this second, thought that it was about exercise.
It is, Sarah.
Oh,
I don't know what Roger's
Certain
trying
kind
to get.
of-
Doesn't compare at all to Private Dancer.
Not at all.
I don't know what you're trying to say, Roger. Just like Make a Move on Me is about chess.
Yeah, exactly.
right. Yeah. Some moves are better than others.
Yeah. Come on, make a move. We're wasting time here. This chess game is going very long.
So I have a little bit of news.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I'm not having a baby or anything. Nothing good like that. But,
By the way,
I'm getting a
before
dog.
don't
You
let me
heard that in
forget-
Scott's gasp, didn't you? That's what you
Yeah,
thought.
you probably did hear my gasp. Here's the thing: when you're done, don't let me forget to tell you the dream I had about you and your dog in a car. Go ahead.
Okay. I was in my car with my dog yesterday, so
Hmm.
maybe you're predicting the future. Anyway, I think I'm getting a new apartment.
What?
I know it's crazy. It's like
Stop imitating me, Sarah.
I want to just do whatever. Tom
Get a
does.
dog. Get a new place.
Yeah, like if Roger and Tom do it, I have to do it too. You know, and like steal your
I
thunder.
don't have a
but-
dog though.
But you do have a house.
Yeah.
I'm not buying a house. I'm not made of money. But but I on a whim, I went to a totally different neighborhood than where I live now. Last night, just to look at something that was
Mhm.
quite a bit less expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the cost that the savings is not negligible.
Mhm.
And I really liked it.
Oh, nice.
And he told me it was mine. So
Nice.
I'm gonna
I mean,
sign
Wow.
this
Like,
tomorrow,
Like, you
and I'm
just
gonna
saw it and he was
move.
like, if you want it, it's yours. That's like out of a
Is
movie or
it,
something.
is it in a convenient location
store?
to get?
Yeah, it's. So
Yeah.
my apartment right now. So
It's
the
like
deal
when
is
you-
like, I'm always talking about, I live at the beach and it's beautiful and the whole thing. It's a big apartment for me, and I'm constantly sort of feeling like, like I gotta like put some in the corner. It's like I've spent all this time kind of filling it up, and it seems a little silly. I really want to get rid of some stuff and kind of condense. And also the idea of saving money is really great.
Yeah.
And it was originally he said, well, just come to the showing on Saturday. There's like a million other people that are going to be there and I'm going to be out of town. So I was like, is there any way I could see it earlier? So that's why I went last night. And once I got in there, I was like, I like this. There's
Oh,
a
nice.
yard for my dog.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I mean, that's a
great.
big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just,
that's
it's
huge.
like a house rather than, the apartment.
Is
Kind
it
of
like it's an actual house, or is it?
Or is it actually renting a house?
it's a duplex. So, I mean, it wouldn't be
Oh, okay.
like my sole house, but yeah, it's a house.
Yeah,
a
that's great.
detached house?
That's great.
Yeah, I know, and like really cool neighborhood, and I don't know, it just kind of felt right.
Nice.
That's
Yeah, I
great.
mean, it won't change wherever I end up, but there's still an office space, so I'll have my little office area. But yeah, it was like one of those serendipitous nights where you're like, this just seems serendipitous. Yep. Yeah, you're like, I'm glad something told me I needed to like do this.
That's how
and
you
by
got
the
the
way, my
place you're
mom is
in
going to
now,
text me in
too.
like 5
Yeah.
seconds because she hasn't heard
Because
the
you hadn't
story
told
yet.
her yet. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Sorry, Mom. I called you earlier. You weren't home.
That's great.
Ear Wars.
No, that's the name of the Verge article. We can't rip that off.
Yeah.
Oh. Beer Wars. No.
I like Cloud Farms.
How about good set of cans?
Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
That won't be misinterpreted in any possible. I'm almost tempted.
Dude, if I had a dime for every time I said words that had another meaning, I didn't think about it till later, I'd be rich.
A head full of cans.
A head full of cans.
Can your head.
Yeah, anytime I'm talking about disembarking, or perhaps the phrase "get" and then followed by the word "off" is involved, I'm not careful enough.
Yeah, I do this all the time.
You need to get off the train here. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you start,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, how about Microsoft's canned response? No?
It's a little negative though, and I'm not sure we're negative about the actual headphones, are we?
We're not. I'm bullish on them.
Well, I like Cloud Farms if we don't like anything else. But
All right, Cloud Farms it is.
all right.
I'm going to become a cloud farmer when I retire.
Yeah, you are.
You mean Claude Farmer?
I'm going to have 4 acres and robots doing everything. Be awesome.
I grew up on an acre. I know exactly what an acre is because that was our lot. The size of the lot our house was on was an acre.
Yeah, there was a time, I mean, just because I grew up in the country where it was like, oh, you only have an acre. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's
totally.
You must live in the city limits or something.
The people in town thought we had a really big yard. All my farmer friends were like, oh, you only have an acre. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, now an acre to me is like, I mean, that is a whole town.
Yeah. I remember when I was in the Central Valley, like out in the outskirts, like Oakdale and stuff, having 2 acres for your home wasn't weird because your acre and a half was used for your horses or whatever else you had running in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of space.
We're all farm kids except for Scott, city boy.
Yeah.
Main street of SLC.
That's true. We lived in part of when I grew up, we lived in a place that was, everybody had an acre, it was all spread out, but nobody was farming anything. It was just like too much land.
So you're actually the same as me. I was not farming anything. We had a big old garden in the backyard though.
Yeah, we did that too.
We did too. My mom was quite the gardener. I mean, it was normal. It's like, well, do you want corn for dinner? We'll just go get the corn from the garden, or raspberries or tomatoes or, all sorts of stuff.
And rhubarb and strawberries.
You want some fish? Here's the rod and reel. Go get it.
We did have crawdads.
Really?
Yeah.
Are those the same thing as crawfish, crayfish?
Yeah, same thing.
What did you have a pond or
no? It was just it was like a dry creek. So half the year it was wet. Ran through our backyard, and when it was wet, the crawdads had come, and the cats would catch them and leave the claws on the back porch.
Wow!
The creek runs through
it. A river runs through it. I love it.
Our cats would catch gophers and bring them to the front door, and then we'd all scream and be like, "Get out of here!" And then they'd be like all upset, and then they'd eat the gophers, and then what happens after that?
There's a feral cat in the neighborhood here, and I'm not sure if the feral cat is paying respect or warning by leaving the dead bird.
No, that's a sign of respect. He's welcoming you. It's like usually a casserole.
But I'm like, really? But we have 2 dogs. Like,
right. Well, maybe the cat is trying to impress the dogs.
Oh, be like, hey, we're cool.
Yeah, like look at what I can do.
I mean, is that really what it is? It's a sign of respect, paying tribute.
Yeah,
Well,
when our
supposedly-
cats growing up
Yeah.
would leave the claws on the back porch, that was sort of
It's
like
a
we're giving
gift.
you the best part of the crawdad, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Part that our teeth can't crush.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, trying to impress you.
Yeah. Or like when you always hear the story of cat owners with waking up to find a mouse on their pillow because the cat caught a mouse and left it for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
a thing.
I've been there. Not my cats now, but yeah, lots of dead rodents, or mostly dead rodents, which is always worse.
See, the fixer is where part of my head is. He's like, the cat's leaving you a message, like a severed horse head in your bed. I'm like, is this a message to the dogs? Like,
Might be.
This is you
Might be a
dogs.
message to
Right.
you.
Yeah, keep it up, and you'll be like this bird here.
Dogs on the leash in this cul-de-sac.
You're new here, dogs. I've been here a while.
This tree is mine.
Well, because when we first saw the place, we kept seeing that cat in the backyard, and of course, the dogs are in the backyard now, so the cat doesn't go anywhere near the backyard.
Is it pretty?
Mhm.
Is it a pretty big cat or just standard house cat
Yeah,
size?
standard black cat size.
Because I remember seeing a feral cat, but it seemed maybe 50% larger than like your standard house cat.
I think that's just because you were afraid of it. Because
Maybe,
it's so imposing. Because it was ripping the head off a bird in front of you.
I do not do this to scare you. It is my
It is my tribute to you, Roger.
take the body. The head is mine.
Leave the cannoli.
Well, you know, they say feral cats are responsible for the decline in songbirds around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, because they got to eat.
They got to eat. They got to eat all the animals that that seem to
funny,
be in
too.
short supply.
I've met 3 of my neighbors now. 2 of them have mentioned the feral cats in negative tones.
Oh, really?
Like attacks them, or it's just a nuisance.
The cats
Well,
aren't,
one
the
of-
feral
one of
cats are
them's-
not going to attack you. They're more
No,
like they're like spraying and that
They're
kind
a
of stuff.
nuisance, yeah.
Yeah.
They
If
poop
anything,
in the
they'll run
yard.
from you.
In San Francisco, there was a feral cat, but I didn't really care because it always fought the raccoons.
Just the one in all of San Francisco?
Just-
Wow.
No, just the
There's
one in
quite
my
a few
neighborhood.
of them. Yeah.
It fought raccoons and
Yeah.
attacked the squirrels.
Well, Justin on This Week in Science is often railing against the feral cats and the
yeah, they're bad
overpopulation.
for the ecology.
Well, spay and neuter your pets, everybody.
Yep.
I agree.
You know, it's kind of
If you like me, have a pet fish.
or
and don't-
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't
it's not a
deposit
bad
them in
thing.
large bodies
That's
of
not a
water
bad
if they
thing,
don't
yeah.
belong in.
I once
then-
lived in an apartment with a bunch of roommates. This is a long time ago, before I knew any of you. And for whatever reason, the landlord just had a huge fish tank like built into the wall.
Oh, wow.
And it was really cool. Like it was like, wow, you know, like impressive. And none of us like even took care of the fish tank. He would come over and like clean it and, you know, do all the pH, whatever you do with fish tanks. You know, and fish would die every once in a while, and you know, then there'd be a new fish, and it was weird. It was just a weird part of this apartment. But it was I became very attached to that fish tank. You know, it's like it's a cool, it's like a screensaver, but way better.
Alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably thought it was a cool attraction that would make people want to live there and
He probably had.
Yeah.
keep them happy.
I'm
He had
sure I
latent
knew. I'm
desire.
sure he told me the story at some point, but I mean, it was a big fish tank.
Did he
And-
grow up in an aquarium or like, you know, like around an
He
aquarium?
was not a
Was he a fish?
Was he a SeaWorld kid?
Was he part?
No.
Was he Aquaman? Did you
He
rent
was-
an apartment from Aquaman?
I mean, I'm not even sure that he put maybe the tank was there when he bought the house. I don't really know, but it became something that was, it was
Probably
it-
fun for him.
What if
And
the fish
and
were
he
just-
was like, you know, now I think of it, I'm like, why was our landlord always in the house, like working on the fish tank?
Cover
Like, that's a
story.
little weird. But at the time, like the rest of us were like, I don't know. how
What
to
are those
clean that.
screams from the basement?
this robotic fish has died. I must replace it.
Yeah.
What were all those half fish, half human people I would see hanging around?
Yeah.
That was
Unfortunately, the colony
Where
of
did my
sea monkeys
roommates
has
go?
passed.
Yeah.
And why are we interrupting this conversation to say goodbye to the video people when
Yeah.
there's more to come for the audio people?
Yeah. That's how the cookie crumbles.
It's the logic. Don't fight it. Just
Bobby Tarantino.